Good morning. Whoa. Serious? I know it's early. Come on, good morning. All right. Thank you for joining us this morning for this important conversation about the rollout of model curriculum for grades 6-8 math and 6-12 financial literacy. My name is Desi Nesmith. I'll be your moderator this morning. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the Connecticut State Department of Education. Before we begin, I would like to thank Superintendent Brian Badigny, Principal Eileen Eustace, and Assistant Principal Barbara Ventura for being so helpful and supportive in helping us pull this off today. Thank you to the staff here and the students for allowing us to be guests here with you this morning. I want to allow the panel to just quickly go down the line, introduce themselves, and say where they're from. So, please.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Chanel. I am a math teacher from Thompson, Connecticut.
Dr. Shelley Jones from Central Connecticut State University in the Department of Mathematical Sciences.
My name is Jennifer Mitchlak. I am the Education Consultant for Math and Computer Science at the Connecticut State Department of Education.
Suzanne Loud, State Department of Education. I'm an Ed Consultant for Career Technical Education.
Good morning, Irene Parisi, Chief Academic Officer for the State Department of Education.
My name is Michael Vignone. I'm a student here at Berlin High School, and I'm the senior class president.
I'm Ned Lamont. I'm your governor in Hartford for now.
And good morning. My name is Charlene Russell Tucker, and I'm your Commissioner of Education.
Good morning. I'm Ingrid Kennedy with the State Education Resource Center, Executive Director.
Paul Castiglione. I'm the Academic Project Manager at the State Department of Education.
Hello, my name is Ruben Little. I'm a business teacher at Ansonia Middle School, and I teach financial literacy.
Good morning. I'm Doug Casey, the Executive Director of the State's Commission for Educational Technology.
Thank you. In just a moment, we're going to engage our panel on in a conversation around this new curriculum and what it means for educators. Connecticut has been committed to providing a high-quality, evidence-based curriculum. Last year, Governor Lamont signed into law a provision that funded the creation of a model K-8 curriculum for our state and our students in our districts to be able to have access to. So we're happy today to be able to roll out the beginning of that process. With the passing of that law, the Department of Education was tasked with developing this curriculum with our stakeholders, our partners, and the folks around the state that could help us create this resource for schools and districts in Connecticut. This rollout is the first phase of this legislative requirement. And again, we're starting today with 6-8 math and 6-12 financial literacy. So before we begin, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Russell Tucker to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner. And good morning again, BHS. I think you can still do a little bit better than that. But it's great to be here with you this morning. And thank you certainly to the superintendent for having us here on this, what I call a momentous day to release phase 1 of our model curricula, as Deputy Commissioner just mentioned. And of note, this is National Financial Literacy Month. So how timely it is that one of what we're rolling out is for financial literacy today. We're so excited for this esteemed panel that's with us here today. And so panel members, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us today. And Governor Lamont, thank you very much for being here and for your leadership as we go forward in implementing this initiative. I'd like to pause to really publicly thank those who introduce themselves from the Department of Education. I call them the unsung heroes that you usually don't see day to day, but they're really there. So to my colleagues at the Department of Education, thank you very much. And Deputy Commissioner, under his vision and leadership for today, thank you for all your efforts and what you're doing. An important foundation of the department's work and that of the State Board of Education is our 5-year comprehensive plan, and our vice chair of our state board is here today as well, Erin Benham. And the plan is ensuring equity and excellence for all Connecticut students. And I'm going to read a section, very short. It said the State Board of Education is committed to ensuring that equitable access and opportunities are at the forefront of our collaborative inquiry and collective responsibility. We are challenging and holding ourselves accountable to ensure an excellent education for current and future generations of students in Connecticut. That's you, our students, that's in this room. And so the release of the model curricula today supports two of the core promises of this plan. Number one, supporting schools and districts in staying on target with learning goals. And number two, making sure students learn, making sure you learn and demonstrate what you need to know to succeed in college, in career, and in life. And so in our state, and you represent that, our students today, we have a beautiful diversity of our student body with over 500,000 students in our urban, rural, and suburban schools across 205 districts. This Go Open website, which you'll hear about in a little bit, will enable all our educators, all our administrators and school staff to use this curriculum to build on what is already in place in classrooms across the state. So from the state level to our district stakeholders and all our students, all of you and our families, there's an entire educational ecosystem at work in our state, and as evidenced by those joining us today as partners in this work. During these extraordinary times, it can be summed up in the title of a book that I like to borrow from, and the book is Leadership Without Easy Answers. Leadership Without Easy Answers. But in Connecticut, I'm so proud that together we work to make sure we can find the right answers to support all our students, all our educators, and all our administrators so that you, our students, can thrive. So I am so honored to be part of Connecticut's educational landscape and look forward to all our work together as we continue to work to find answers so that you can be successful and you can thrive. With that, Governor Lamont will now provide us with a welcome.
Welcome. Hey, Berlin High School. I'll just start off on financial literacy, whatever that means. I can tell you that when I graduated from high school back in the Ming Dynasty, we didn't know anything when we were graduating. But back then, it was a little easier. I mean, if I was trying to buy a house, later on, I went into the bank and there was the mortgage guy. I'd sit down and talk to him or her and they'd explain it to me. Today you can go to Rocket Mortgage or Tomo online, but you better know what you're doing. Back when I was trying to start up a business, you'd go into that bank and there'd be a sign that said small business loan, and I'd go in there and they'd explain it to me, and I'd check around a couple other places. Now you can go online and do this yourself, crowdsourcing. So this is more important than ever that you understand what those words mean, what those terms are, how you can buy a house, how you can get a mortgage, how you can start a business, and that's what financial literacy means in English. And it's very important to me, if you just give me 40 seconds to go off topic, the first thing, I did after starting my business was started teaching a course at Harding High School down in Bridgeport on how to start your own business. And it was a really dull class in accounting and debits and credits, and not everybody was showing up. And they said, would you come in, once a week? So I came in with entrepreneurs who had started up a business. Soul to Soul Restaurant was one of the best ones, and have them just sort of talk about how they went through the process, how they recruited, how they came up with a business plan, what they did, and it made it real for people. So this is a running head start, this online piece you get in terms of financial literacy as well as math. And this is also part of what we've learned coming after 2 years of COVID, that the best teaching is still in the classroom. The best teaching is right here at the high school. The best teaching is with the best teachers in the world you have right here. But if you can supplement that a little bit along the way, that's what this online curriculum is all about. Over to you, Michael. Ha.
You want me to go?
He does the rules.
Okay. Thank you both. Well, we're eager to hear from our panel, so I'll start with the questions. Irene, the first question I have is for you. Why is the release of the 6-8 model math curriculum and the 6-12 financial literacy curriculum important, and why is it happening now?
Great question, and thank you, Deputy Commissioner. First, I've always said that curriculum is the backbone of any district, because that is where and how we engage our students in deeper learning. It's how teachers make connections not only with the content and across content or subjects, but also making those connections with students. And we believe more than ever that we need to provide access to on-grade level content and beyond every single day, that students need to have that daily access. I'm going to allow Jen and Suzanne, my colleagues, to speak specifically to the math and the financial literacy, but why is it happening now? I would like to add, we learned a lot from the pandemic, and we learned with frequency that the implementation of curriculum or access to it was inconsistent across the state. And some students had more, some had less, and this was across the entire state, right? And so that really drove us. That was the fire in our belly was to make sure that all students from now on have access, all teachers have access to a model, an exemplar curriculum, whether it is to fully implement, as you say, or supplement, or even evaluate what you have now. But really it's about advancing equity so that we can meet students where they are and take them beyond so that they're ready for any experience after high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Governor, you started to touch on in your opening remarks this, and so I wanted to follow up a question for you. How do you see this work supporting workforce development here in Connecticut? We know that is a major focus for you and in your administration. How do you see this as supporting that work to make sure we have a prepared workforce in the state?
Yeah, workforce means being prepared for the jobs that are out there. This is an amazing, great time to be graduating from high school, by the way. First time in my life that we have many more jobs than we have people ready to fill those jobs. So what mathematics, what financial literacy, what a lot of the other skills you can be learning right here at Berlin High School is prepare you for the jobs that are out there. And for the first time in 50 years, there is a job out there, a really good paying job, if you've developed some of the skills you need to get there. You may not have all the skills, that's why you have apprentice programs and the such as well. But most important is starting with a good basic education. You get that right here. That's what the meaning of a general education is. Then you start focusing around the skills you have so that you can have an amazing job right here in Connecticut. Either go on to college, go on to community college, go on to an apprenticeship program. You have options.
Thank you. And panelists, at any time, if you feel free to jump in if you want to jump in. My next question is for Commissioner and Ingrid. The partnership here between the Department of Education and CERC, can you speak a little bit about that and what that will continue to look like as we work together on curriculum initiatives in Connecticut?
So I'll just start by saying, one of the beauties in our state is how we work together. The fact that we are able to find great partners, as I said before, looking out in the audience and seeing our wonderful partners, certainly the State Education Resource Center being one of them. And we've always thought about CERC as almost like the research and development arm, that does a lot of that work for us. Building the department and CERC together in this space really is just a value add for the work that we're doing together. And so I don't know if you planned it this way that I'm sitting right next to Ingrid, but to talk about that work and what they're able to do, because in some cases where we don't have capacity, they have added capacity that just helps for implementation and actually being boots on the ground if necessary to be supporting our districts in this work.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to start with a little bit of history, starting in 1969. This partnership started in 1969, over 50 years. And the beauty of the partnership is how we have grown together, understanding the changes that are necessary in order to provide the service that our students and our families need. The State Education Resource Center just feels incredibly honored to be part of every single initiative that the State Department of Education has put forward that focus on thriving, betterment of our students in our learning community. It is a pleasure to be part of it. We bring into the discussion, into the inquiry, critical interrogation. We focus on social justice, equity, because we want to make sure that every perspective is in the space as decisions are being made. And today, by the fact that we are amongst you students, amongst all of you, it just signifies the importance of the implementation of the future of this curriculum. So we're honored to be here and honored to be partnering once again with our development of the future of education in Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you both for that. Next question, I'm going to bring it back to Irene and the rest of the team. Can you talk us through the development? What was the process to get us here today where we're prepared to release this curriculum?
So I'll start with one important first step was, as a team, we needed to determine what exactly goes into a model curriculum. What does an exemplar need to look like? So it took a while, and we really went to design thinking and said, what are the design principles for a model curriculum? And we came up with 6 of them, and we said that whatever we create, we need to have a common vocabulary across the state. It needs to be consistent in its look and feel and the conversation, but it has to be focused and designed by the standards, really relevant to engage students. There needed to be some flexibility for teachers that inherently in that curriculum that you could make some adjustments that meet the needs or the strengths and passions of our students in front of you. Rigorous, had to communicate high expectations and really be coherent, that connections could be made throughout it and beyond, and that it needed to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive to really match the diversity of the classroom. So the first, and then we really got into the subject area. So again, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues Jen and Suzanne to speak to those next steps.
So I can speak towards the math. We were fortunate enough when the Common Core was adopted in 2010 to develop model units. So we already had a foundation of an asset. And when we went back in, we learned very quickly that there were critical elements that Irene spoke of that were missing. Many of you know that math is a progressive discipline. It builds upon itself. And we've learned a lot in the last 12 years of Common Core that we need to really understand what those progressions are. So it was really important for me with and release to the state really was beneficial and useful for classroom teachers because they have the direct impact on you, our students. So we made sure that the progressions were embedded directly into that curriculum. We also know that with over 169 districts, the capacity within those districts varies greatly. So we wanted to have something that truly spoke to the inclusion of all students. I was fortunate enough to work with Dr. Jones, who's nationally recognized for her work in culturally relevant mathematics education. So we were able to take a lot of her thinking and a lot of her beliefs and embed it to make sure that our curriculum truly did meet the needs of all students. And then most importantly, we went directly to the districts. And we had input from district folks on what do you need, what can we do to help you? And we created a comprehensive, robust 6-8 curriculum that I am very proud of and I'm excited to see launched today.
Thank you, Jen. The financial literacy piece came at it a little bit of a different way. We started by talking about this. Treasurer Wooden was kind enough to come to a half-day personal finance workshop for business teachers across Connecticut. And the information that came out of that meeting that was shared about the importance of moving ahead with financial literacy curriculum then led to some small grants with an MOU with the Department of Banking. And we brought in middle school teachers because this was targeting middle school. And really it was the teachers, I must say, teachers from across the state. I don't want to mention names because of course I will forget someone. But they looked, after they did these grants, they looked at very specific options that were out there. And what we ended up adopting and using to base our 612 curriculum on was the next gen personal finance curriculum, which is a very high quality group of curricula based on standards, nationally vetted standards from the Council for Economic Education and Jumpstart. And really, that pulled it all together and we were able to move ahead based on the teachers.
Thank you for that. And as you mentioned, teachers, and we've talked a little bit about the development, I'd like to move on to hear a little bit now about implementation. And so I would like to start with our two teachers on the panel, Patricia and Ruben. How do you see the implementation of this curriculum? What will that look like in classrooms, and what's the value for both teachers and students here?
Thank you, Commissioner, for asking that question, and to everyone in the audience. You know, when it comes to financial literacy, the question becomes, how young do you start? So that has been a big question. And some of the topics that have come through Next Gen Personal Finance, they were thinking that this should be just centered to high school students and not middle school students. And I have to disagree. Because, you know, we don't know as human beings what we know until we know. What do I mean by that? I mean this. My first experience of not knowing something was at 7 years old. I grew up in the projects of Rockview Circle in New Haven. And then my parents were able to help us grow out of that by being financially responsible. But every weekend, every Saturday morning, what would happen is the goodie truck would show up. And all the kids in the projects would get their 25 cents from their parents to go to the goodie truck. And on this particular day that I went to the goodie truck, Bazooka bubblegum actually cost 2 cents, but they raised the price to 5 cents. Now you could imagine, we were just awestruck. We were devastated. Our 25 cents now is buying a lot less. I remember at 7 years old being outraged at the driver that I said this. The next thing you will do is charge us for water. Now, now little did I know that they would actually charge us for water. But that was the first introduction to the need of inflation and understanding financial literacy. So you don't know what you know until you know. So my whole life experience leads me to this table. I've been a financial advisor for the past 25 to 30 years, and 3 years ago I had the privilege of kind of setting that aside and going into Ansonia Middle School to work with younger students in the middle school to teach them information about financial literacy through Next Gen Personal Finance. I was one of the individuals who had the privilege of being awarded with a grant by the state of Connecticut to actually implement a curriculum that did not exist. And I could tell you, I've worked with millionaires over the years, and I am so impressed by the young minds that sit in this room, because you help me to understand financial literacy in an extraordinary way. I think Governor Lamont kind of mentioned that you're going to need this when you actually have to sit down and actually go for a mortgage. But again, you don't know what you know until you know. So we are here to teach you what you need to know so you will know what you need to know to be successful in that space. And I have to say, you know, sometimes me being new to education, it's kind of, we say that education is fragmented. The teachers are not necessarily in contact with the real world. I beg to differ coming from the real world to the classroom. And I can say that the state of Connecticut and a lot of people are working hard for you individuals, you young ones, to make sure you're successful for the future by not only just giving you these math experiences where you sit in the classroom and say, why do we have to learn this? We're never going to use this in the future. I beg to differ. Through financial literacy is the real world application of why you would use math in an extraordinary way. And the younger that you start doing this, the better off you will be. So when does that start? You remember the pink piggy bank? You know, when you had the piggy bank when you were younger? It actually starts there. We have chosen to start it at 6 through 12. And it's been doing great things down at Ansonia Middle School. So I had a kid come up to me, and I'll end on this. I had a young one come up to me in the hallway with a group that we taught financial literacy, and he says, Mr. Little, you need to invest in this particular stock. I said, really? He goes, did you see it? I said, no. I said, how's it going? And the rest of the kids are like standing around him. He goes, Mr. Little, I bought it at like 50 cents. It was gold. He goes, because of what's going on in the Ukraine, gold is like rising in price right now. I says, oh, really? He goes, Mr. Little, you got to get in on this. He goes, before the day is out. He goes, because around like 3:30, before the market closes, he goes, it's going to spike in price and then it's going to drop. He made $900 from the morning to the afternoon. I made $600. So, how young do we begin? Let the story speak for itself.
Well, coming from a small district in the northeast corner of the state, I'm very honored to have been asked to be part of this project. It is very difficult for small districts to have the funds and the time and the manpower to develop a curriculum as powerful as this one. It is transparently mapping out, and it provides rationale for good teaching and learning. One of the things that I found probably the most valuable is that many skills are taught in isolation, and this curriculum allows for collaboration. It allows for opportunities for cross-curricular learning, which will allow students to transfer their learning from one subject area to another. I think it also provides opportunities for multiple modalities, hands-on use of visuals, opportunities for differentiation for different students, and most importantly, the incorporation of real-world scenarios, the rigor that is associated with true problem solvers. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, we've heard from the adults about how this got developed, why this is important, right? What I want to know is from your perspective, from someone who has taken a financial literacy course in high school, and to your classmates, what is the value from the student perspective? What here is going to help you, and what's your message to your classmates?
Thank you. So it really just gives, like Governor Lamont was saying, it's the baseline. You can go learn how to differentiate in your AP calculus. You can learn how to balance equations in chem, but you can't just necessarily learn how the financial world works through any kind of bigwig smart class. You have to just learn that baseline of it. And a lot of families, they don't necessarily like talking about that, whether it's out of fear of showing their excessive wealth or not much wealth. And by having that opportunity to learn through an unbiased situation just with a teacher trying to do the best for their students, you really end up learning truly how to just provide for yourself and knowing where you can go within the world of in financial terms at least.
Excellent. Dr. Jones and Governor Lamont, I'll start with Dr. Jones. Given the diversity of the student body makeup in Connecticut, how does this model curriculum and the opportunity to provide this across the state advance equity for students in Connecticut?
Well, I think with the model curriculum, first of all, it will serve as a guide for teachers and for curriculum leaders. Many times people say we need to teach in a culturally responsive way, and teachers will say, that sounds great, how do you do that? And so what I think this curriculum does, first of all, is kind of gives a background information on what is culturally responsive mathematics teaching, and then also it provides resources for teachers. Not only will we be providing sample lessons, but we also provide a resource library for teachers and for curriculum writers. For instance, on one of the pages, there are many links. There's a link to NCTM's, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. They have a whole web page on teaching from a culturally relevant perspective or culturally responsive. We have two different ways of saying it. But on that page, one of the things they focus on is increasing students' positive mathematics identity. I know that you've heard a student say, I'm not good at math. We want to change that. And so we do that by learning about students and their cultures, their traditions. We make community connections. As teachers, we always want to connect to students. We already do that. But many times we do it in superficial ways. We do it with their interests. You know, they like basketball or they like music. What we're asking teachers to do is dig a little deeper. Learn what students love, what they hope for, what they dream, right? What career might they want? And we go from there. We also have websites like Mathematically Gifted in Black. If students never see themselves in the mathematics textbook, they need to know that there are Black mathematicians. We have Lathisms, that is a website that features Hispanic and Latinx mathematicians, indigenous mathematicians, and Connecticut has its own Math Teaching for Social Justice website. And they have lessons there that help teachers to learn how to take issues straight from the community and connect it to mathematics. So what I would say about this model curriculum is that it provides so many resources for teachers that want to know more about how could I do this thing called culturally responsive teaching, and most of all, increasing students' math identity, and we do that starting with their assets, with their strengths, rather than the gaps. We know there's gaps. You don't have to tell us that. We've been beaten across the head with that. We want to start from what do they know? Because when students come to us, and I'm a graduate of Harding High School, when students come to me from Bridgeport, you know, they're brilliant. But you have to mine that, and you have to find that. And then we start there, and we start from there. Connect music and math, and connect art and math, and so many other things. Oh, excuse me, and I taught in Bridgeport, so I want to say that too. That's where I got that art and math, because I had an artist, and he was an 8th grader, and he was literally an artist. And he would sit in the back of the room and sort of, when am I ever going to use this? And one day I went back there, and I saw what he was doing, and I said, okay, I'm going to use you in the next lesson. And he led the lesson. So those are some of the things that I'm excited about with the model curriculum.
Thank you.
So I think the question was also about equity. Look, my job as governor and Charlene as commissioner and all the folks up here is to make sure that each and every one of you get a fair shot at the starting line of life. And frankly, we're making the biggest commitment ever in terms of daycare and childcare, just because even before you get into the classroom, there's a lot of learning that goes on. What this Common Core and what this curriculum means is outside of the classroom, outside of some of the best teachers you've got out there, there are other ways you can supplement your learning and continue to grow and learn. Look, the only advice I would give is, I can't guarantee you outcomes. You know, we're going to give you the fairest shot at the starting line of life, and then it's up to you to run and go where your hearts and dreams will take you. At your age, I always went to all the courses I thought were easy, just because, you know, that's what you do. And I would just urge you to experiment a little bit if you're sophomores and juniors, and take some courses you may not otherwise think. It just opens your mind. Like Ruben said, you don't know what you don't know until you get into something like that. And then you experiment. And finally, when it comes to equity and diversity and opportunity, each and every one of you has an amazing and unique experience. And make sure you leverage off of what your experience is. If that's where you go into teaching, whether you go into social work, whether you start up a business like I did, you know, follow where your experiences lead you, and that will give you the best head start going forward. Again, as I think, it's an amazing time to be a young person, because there's a lot of opportunities out there right now and who really need you.
Thank you, Governor. Paul and Doug, we've talked about the development. We've talked a little bit about implementation. I want to back up a little bit. Can you guys go into where exactly this curriculum lives and who has access to it? Is this something that only a classroom teacher can access? Is it just the building? Do families have access to students? Can you gentlemen walk us through where this lives and what access will be like?
Absolutely. As a former classroom teacher and instructional coach and a building principal, I've always dreamed of a central library that housed all curriculum. And Go Open CT is that place. It's a wonderful asset that allows the curriculum that anybody can access. Anybody in Connecticut, any family, any teacher, any student, everybody has full access. One of the things that we believe in is a two-click philosophy. Once you get on the Go Open CT platform, you're 2 clicks away from the curriculum. We also believe in the two-click philosophy where there's 2 places to find Go Open. One is to go right on the GoOpenCT.org, or you can go to the beautiful graphic behind me of the CT Learning Hub at the top spoke. That's the K-12 Model Curriculum Hub. If you were to enter into that hub, you would go right to, there would be a direct link to the GoOpenCT platform, and once again, you would be 2 clicks away from the model curriculum. So it is anytime, anywhere. Last night I went on my cell phone, so anybody has access to it anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, on behalf of the state, our commission joined a group of other states, 20 now, through the U.S. Department of Education, a group called the Go Open Collaborative, and really based around this concept of equity of access to high-quality, standards-aligned learning materials. And part of the dream and vision for getting involved in it was to have a site like this someday. And while we launched in the middle of the pandemic, we are thrilled that the Department of Education is leveraging this platform to its full capabilities. You know, with technology, it should be a lot less about the features and a lot more about why we're using it. And the why with GoOpenCT.org is it solves problems. It solves problems at the K through 12 level. When you adopt a full-price textbook, you may not be aware of this, but that can cost a school district tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to get all the copies. And then, you know, I was a student, I was a teacher. You know, having your 30-year-old textbook and it may not seem relevant anymore, that's a problem. Well, with this platform, we can develop courses and update them so they are relevant, they are responsive to what's going on in the real world. And at the college level, you know, I'm the father of 2 college-age students, and paying upwards of $1,000 a semester for textbooks, it can mean the difference between students enrolling in a course, choosing a major even dropping out of school. We don't ever want cost to be a barrier for students to have access to education. And so having a platform where you can, professors and teachers can collaborate, whether in a department, a school, or even across districts and states, can create high-quality standards-aligned courses that are free and open to students, so that the only question becomes, what do I want to learn? What do I want to achieve?
Thank you for that. Irene, I'm going to bring it back to you and the team. For districts who are interested in implementation, can you say a little bit about support and professional development opportunities that will exist for districts that are interested in implementing this?
Absolutely. And before I do, I just want to, I hope everyone's hearing here what we're trying to do. The other piece of this is reducing barriers, as Doug shared. Our hope is that there's potential by providing model curriculum that we give time back to teachers, that they have more time to actually plan these engaging experiences because the curriculum has been designed for them. Not every teacher likes to design, write curriculum. My husband, Mr. Parisi, doesn't always, but but my point is that we are giving time back to them to create these learning experiences for them, so that, and also procuring or curating all of the resources, as you said, Dr. Jones, that it's like an ecosystem. It really is, that everything is there so you can get to the learning experiences. So how now might teachers access that, right? So we want to stand up a set of office hours, professional learning that will be provided initially virtually to access this. We have a partnership that's going to be underway to support, with one of the rests, to support training with Go Open CT. And there's other ways that it's going to be a suite of resources that we're going to provide for teachers and even district administrators to understand this, because it's not just about the teachers. The administrators need to be behind this too and understand. But I'll hand it over to Jen or Suzanne or anyone else that might want to offer.
Irene, I just want everyone to realize that bringing all those teachers together, albeit virtually, right, and some business and industry stakeholders, to look at curriculum, we wanted to make sure that we put the right curriculum in front of our teachers and our students. And when we landed on what is being adopted and launched here today for grades 6 through 12, without a doubt that this curriculum would fit seamlessly into the design principles that Irene was referencing earlier. And in terms of PD, very quickly, if a teacher new to this curricula just were to click on it and start, they could immediately find part of that suite and engage in certification courses on specific topics, do on-demand modules, and have virtual PD opportunities with teachers from across the country, other teachers of personal finance, to say nothing of all the other layers that we will provide as well. So navigating it is simple, and it is a time saver, but it's quality, and it's the right curriculum.
And in terms of mathematics implementation, as part of Accelerate CT, coming off of a really difficult couple of years for public education in light of the pandemic, we preach that we want to accelerate student learning because they're behind. And we say it, and we say it, and we say it, but we don't give the teachers the time to do it. Because what does that mean? The math curriculum with the progressions enables teachers to clearly identify what those just-in-time needs are so that students can access grade-level content, so we can start to shrink those gaps that have been long-standing in math education. We also have a conscious effort around vocabulary. Vocabulary is not understood until it's used, so we need to make sure teachers are using the right curriculum. We also know that teachers are incredibly dedicated to student learning across Connecticut, and we expect a lot out of them with little time to do it. So we're creating a volume of resources that are quick tip guides. How can we quickly learn what we need to learn to get the material so we can, as quickly and efficiently as possible, turn that around so it impacts student learning? And that has been the focus of this model curriculum.
I wanted to add a few things to that, Jen. There is also guidance there. You said talk about vocabulary, in particular for multilingual learners. So we have help for them as well, teachers in terms of planning for them. And we also have different questions. We want teachers to reflect as they have the math curriculum in front of them. It's rigorous, right? Now I want to think about and reflect about my students. I know my students, right? I'm the teacher. So some of the questions you might ask are, what opportunities are there for students to make connections from their life to the math? What do I need to learn about my students so that the lessons are free from bias and stereotypes? These are not questions that you might have asked previously in a math lesson when you were planning a math lesson. But these are questions to help teachers reflect on what ways might I have to change my math teaching. We want the math to be there. We have the content standards, but we also want to make sure that teachers are ready and able to connect with their students through the mathematics.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I turn it back to Commissioner Russell Tucker and Governor Lamont for closing remarks, I have one final question for the panel, and feel free, anyone can jump in here, but if there was a highlight that you wanted to raise up here for us this morning, is there a particular thing in the curriculum, whether it's the 6-8 math or 6-12 financial literacy, that anyone on the panel would like to take a second to highlight?
I think as a classroom teacher, one of the things that I'm most excited about is the built-in resources. Again, I appreciate the fact of being able to save time, and the activities are with the rigor that we want our children to operate at.
Yes, also too, you know, some of you are going to grow up to become business owners, and you can't manage your business until you first learn how to manage yourself. So the earlier you begin to start learning about the things that involve you becoming financially literate, to be able to speak a new language will allow you to exist in that particular community or culture and be successful and thrive in that culture. And the beauty about financial literacy is our cultures are ever changing because with time comes new challenges, but the fundamentals of financial literacy will equip you to facilitate the change. Some of you are going to become parents. Some of you are going to become husbands, wives, fathers. Some of you will have grandchildren, and you're going to be able to navigate all those things. You're going to start thinking about end-of-life decisions on the wealth that you amass, how do you successfully pass it on to your grandchildren or your unborn grandchildren. That learning about financial literacy begins now, not later, now.
For me, I'd just like to highlight the fact that this is now available. It really connects many initiatives within the state of Connecticut, not only at the Department of Education. The Council of Women and Girls has a STEM initiative. You can't have STEM without mathematics. So this is an opportunity for us to level the playing field for all of Connecticut students and to continue to move all of our robust initiatives forward to better our state.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Russell Tucker and then Governor Lamont to close us out.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner, and thank you to all of you in this space today. And I hope our students were recognizing that you've got a group of folks at our agency, other partner agencies, other partners that we have, that we're working for you. It is really about you and your ultimate success. And so I just really wanted to put that in the space. I want to thank our partners, certainly all of our panel members, and again for your time and expertise. I love the concept of giving our teachers time back. And you know, one of the things when I saw this site demonstrated, they're flashcards, like they're flashcards that you can print out and use, right? So you're talking about giving time back. And so in the days to come and months, we look forward to making sure that that folks know that this is available, and frankly, continue to refine. And the fine tune is not one and done. And that's the beauty of this. And supporting our educators as they continue to use this. But for our students, thank you for indulging, listening to us this morning. But again, the takeaway, this is about you, and this is for you. It is why we exist, to do all the things that we do. We want you to be successful. We want you to thrive. Thank you very much. Governor?
Well, if it's about you, and one of the great things about my job is I get to delegate. And I'd like to delegate to Michael to summarize on behalf of the students, what did we hear for the last hour?
So pretty much, a lot of it may come off to some as like a little higher above our heads than what we'd think we'd be listening to today, but it all comes down to making things more equitable and equal. Someone was saying, leveling the playing field. It's giving everyone the opportunity to really step off that first day out of high school, out of even middle school, as a student that is more prepared for the future and has more ability to focus on their own individual passions because they have their baselines. These personal finance themes or goals that the instruction wants to teach us, it's all going to become subconscious in a way where we don't have to worry about it. We just know what's going to happen, and then we can focus on our own passions to eventually get to where any of us want to be in life. So,
Thanks for explaining that to us, Michael. You ought to get into politics. You're pretty good. And Berlin High School, we love you. Love being here. Thanks to the panel.
Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the district and the school for allowing us to be guests in your house today. And thank you to students for joining us this morning. Have a good day, everyone.